There are so many rules when it comes to flying. And while you probably know about the limits on liquids, did you know that your ground coffee might be suspect too? Or that you can't bring a helium balloon on board? We're breaking down some of the top things you shouldn't pack in your carry-on bag if you don't want to face extra screening at airport security, from foreign soil and plants to toys. We dove deep into the What Can I Bring portion of TSA's website and scoured regulations from US Customs to figure out what you can and cannot carry on, whether you're flying domestic or international. Of course, every airport is different, especially if you're traveling to or from another country, so be sure to check the local regulations before you fly. In the meantime, these rules are a great place to start. Certain items look weird on the X-ray machine, prompting TSA officers to pull your bag aside for additional screening. However, what's causing the issue may not be as straightforward as you think. Certain foods, powders, and other materials obstruct clear images on the machine, so TSA recommends packing those things in a checked bag instead of trying to carry them on. There are also certain things, like books, that you may want to bring on board, but thicker ones are sometimes so dense that officers have to visually inspect them and open them up to make sure that you're not concealing anything inside. Personally, I prefer reading on a Kindle when I travel, but if you want to bring a hardcover of Gone with the Wind, not my place to judge. Just be aware that it may trigger an extra look. Depending on where you're traveling from, you may also not be allowed to carry on more than 12 ounces of powders, including coffee and protein powder. For example, if you're coming into the US from certain international destinations like Jamaica, only baby formula is allowed in higher amounts, and the rest must go in your checked luggage. Even within the US, you should place those powder-like substances in a separate bin for screening, and TSA officers may open them. Just like the X-ray machine can't see through dense things, other items may look odd to the scanner. These are mostly going to be weirdly shaped objects, but how you pack something also impacts how it shows up on the screen. We asked our YouTube audience the strangest things they've ever had flagged. We got a comment from a photographer who packed a dozen high-vis vests in a compression cube when traveling to a running race. Between the tight packing and the reflective design, the vests just look like a large blob on the X-ray machine. Since then, this traveler just hasn't packed them so tightly together, and they haven't had an issue since. Personally, I've had a portable door lock for a hotel room flagged when I was going through security in Boston, and I had a fork and knife set that was TSA friendly flagged when I was in Thailand. In each case, officers just asked what the items were and didn't confiscate them. The same thing happened when staff writer Christine was traveling home with a candle in a glass jar. Per TSA, solid candles are allowed through, but they still look suspicious on the machine, so she got pulled aside for extra screening. If that doesn't bother you or cause you extra travel anxiety, you can know that in most cases, you'll be okay. But if you don't want to get pulled aside, put items like that in your checked luggage or leave them behind. You can always buy some souvenirs online when you get home or get them shipped directly to your house from the store. You may have to hand over your personal information to get free shipping or a discount at that store though. But unfortunately, that can lead to robocalls and spam emails. That's because while you want travel rewards and hotel deals, those companies want to cash in on your email, address, and phone number by selling it to data brokers who then sell it to other companies. It's scary to know that anyone can get and use my personal information any way they want. The junk calls and emails stopped quickly after I started working with Incogni, this video's sponsor. So far, they found my information on about 400 sites and removed it from more than 350. Incogni reaches out to data brokers on my behalf to get my information removed and handles any objections, so my spam calls stopped virtually overnight without me having to do anything. Even if I knew who to call, contacting all of them would be a full-time job. I just have to sign in with the email that I want spam removed from, and Incogni does the rest. Plus, their family plan allows me to share my subscription with 4 more people. Incogni is giving PackHacker viewers a 60% discount on an annual plan. Just use code PackHacker at the link in the description below. Now, back to the packing tips. Parents or children at heart, you'll want to listen to this next tip. A prohibition on swords or sabers sounds obvious because they're sharp metal objects, but you can't bring wooden or foam swords on board either. Toys, swords of any kind, or anything else that looks like a realistic weapon, even Nerf or squirt guns, have to go in your checked bag. Christine once met a young traveler who had his new wooden sword from Epcot confiscated because his family had already checked their bag. On the other hand, the lightsaber that her daughter had built at Star Wars Galaxy's Edge ended up being okay. After struggling to fit the too long light into their suitcase the night before returning home, she popped onto TSA.gov and was happy to see that some Star Wars fans must work on the government website, and her daughter had no issue walking right to her seat while carrying it. However, while science fiction weapons are allowed, some sporting equipment is not. Specifically things like bats and clubs, since you can use them to hit someone. For instance, you can carry on a bowling ball, but not bowling pins. Golf clubs, cricket bats, hiking poles, and hockey sticks are also all prohibited. I recently just had a friend get her hiking poles taken away through security because she ran out of time to check her bag before going through and had to check it at the gate, so obviously when she went through the line, those weren't clear. Fishing rods are allowed though, as long as they fit within the size limits of your airline. On the other hand, you'll have to check your tackle box because sharp fishing tackle and large fish hooks must be wrapped to protect inspectors from sharp edges and packed into a checked bag. If you plan to play soccer or run a cross-country race, you can bring cleats on board, even if they have metal spikes. Cowboy spurs are also okay. Go figure. If you've flown any time in the last 20 years, you probably have the 311 rule memorized. In case you need a refresher, you can only have 1 quart or liter size clear bag per traveler. And the bottles inside cannot be larger than 3.4 ounces or 100 milliliters. 3 ounces in 1 bag per 1 traveler. 311. However, there are a few things that TSA considers liquids that you may not think of. Like, are you planning to bring a snack on board? Peanut butter and hummus counts as liquids, so you can't bring full-size containers with you. Same with cream cheese for your morning bagel, although hard cheese is allowed without any limits. If you're traveling with a pet, wet food is also considered a liquid, so make sure Fido's dinner fits into your 311 bag or pack the cans in your checked luggage. While we hope it's obvious that you can't carry a larger bottle of liquid on board, there are limits to what kind of alcohol you can transport at all. According to US Customs, you can't transport alcoholic beverages with more than 70% alcohol at all, like grain alcohol and 151 rum, whether in your checked or carry-on bag. And if you hit the duty-free internationally before flying back to the United States, make sure you don't have a connecting flight after entering the country. You must go through TSA screening again before getting on your connecting flight, which means you will again be subject to the 3.4 ounce rule. So even if you had no issue carrying on duty-free items like alcohol and perfume on your first flight because they were properly packaged to be carried on board, that doesn't necessarily mean that they'll be able to make it onto your next flight. You may have to throw them away before you make your connection. Oh, and a random thing your kids might want to play with also can't be carried on board. The fortune-telling Magic 8 Ball must have too much water inside to make it under the 3.4 ounce rule, so have them pick another toy to play with on the plane. Some items may require import permits or documentation in order to bring them into the country, so you don't want to put those in your checked bag or carry-on either. You can't always bring plants and seeds capable of growing into the US from another country or craft items made of straw. Those must be inspected by custom officials before you enter the country, even if you don't see any pests yourself. Because of that, you may not even make it to your plane with that straw or coconut leaf hat. Officials in a lot of Caribbean nations confiscate materials like that because they know the US regulations. If you're coming home from Hawaii, Puerto Rico, or the US Virgin Islands, you may also have to leave fresh fruits and vegetables behind. Unless you bought the Hawaiian pineapple at the airport where it's been USDA inspected and specially packaged, you may have to toss it if it doesn't pass inspection. We've even heard from travelers who had an apple they bought as an airplane snack confiscated, so it's best to leave them behind. While you can bring sand on board from a US domestic flight, soil is prohibited from entering the country without an import permit, so you may have more issues bringing home sand from your Tahitian beach vacation. However, you can bring home Maine lobster or Midwestern steaks. Meat, seafood, vegetables, and other non-liquid is allowed in carry-on and check bags domestically. However, you'll need an ice pack to keep it cold, and that might be where you run into problems. The ice or ice packs must be completely frozen when you go through TSA screening, so pack them right before leaving the Airbnb and make sure you're using a quality cooler. If the ice or ice packs have melted at all and there's any liquid at the bottom, they won't be allowed through. And no one wants to know what kind of shape that meat will be in by the time you arrive home without proper refrigeration. So you may want to pay to have those specialty food items shipped home from the seller instead of packing it yourself. You'll want to take care when packing your toiletry bag too. There are a few pointy items that could cause problems in your carry-on. While disposable razors are okay, safety razors are not. You can bring the razor itself through security if you've removed the blade, carefully sheathed or wrapped it, and placed it in your checked luggage. If you forget, TSA officers are not allowed to take the blade off for you, so the entire razor will likely end up in the trash. Nail files, nail clippers, and safety pins are allowed, as are scissors less than 4 inches long from the pivot point. A few things should go in your carry-on though. They either can't be left unattended in the cargo hold or are things that you don't want a chance losing. Lithium metal or lithium ion powered gear like laptops, phones, and tablets should be carried on board the plane. Flight crew members are trained to recognize and respond to fires caused by those batteries in the cabin while there's no one watching if you put it in your checked luggage. Spare batteries can't go in your checked baggage for the same reason, so you'll also want to carry those on. If your carry-on gets gate checked, be sure to pull that gear out and bring it with you to your seat. You should also pack medication with you. While you are supposed to declare what you have to the TSA or customs officer, you're allowed to have it with you, and we recommend doing so with necessary meds so you don't take the chance of your bag getting lost with them inside. The same goes for jewelry. You don't want to lose that expensive diamond bracelet or your grandma's pearl necklace, so carry it with you, or better yet, leave it at home. You can ask for a private security inspection if you're concerned about other travelers seeing what you have in your carry-on bag at the X-ray screening. You'll also want to keep anything you're afraid of getting crushed or broken with you, since you have more control over it than you do with your check bag. Just keep in mind that if it looks strange, you might get pulled aside for additional screening. So that's what to leave behind or place in your checked luggage next time you fly. What's the weirdest thing that you've ever had confiscated or looked at more carefully? Let us know in the comments below, and we'll see you next time.